Have you ever stumbled upon something that shouldn't exist, something that feels so oddly connected to you, so personally intrusive, that it makes you question everything? What if I told you that a girl found a random phone in a dusty lost and found box, and when she unlocked it, she saw herself as a baby? Pictures no one else could have had. Pictures she didn't even know existed. Yeah, I'm not making this up. This story is not just strange, it's deeply personal, wildly emotional, and full of twists you won't see coming. And the craziest part? The answer to how this phone got there, who owned it, and why her photos were inside, it's not what you're expecting. But you will get that answer. That's my promise to you. By the end of this video, you'll understand everything. But to get there, you have to see it all unfold, moment by moment. I want you to take a second and just imagine this. You're 17. You're at school. It's a regular day. Maybe you're waiting for the final bell to ring or killing time before soccer practice or drama club. You walk past the front office, the place with the stale coffee smell and the flickering fluorescent lights, and for some reason, you glance at the old wooden drawer labeled Lost and Found. You've seen it 100 times. Usually it's stuffed with water bottles, a single sock, someone's beat-up math binder, but today, there's something different. You see a phone. Old, scratched up. Just sitting there. It's not the phone that grabs you, it's the sticker on the back. It's a little faded, but something about it feels familiar. Almost like something you remember from when you were a kid. Your heart beats just a little faster. You're drawn to it, and you don't even know why. Now pause for a second. Why would your baby photos be on a stranger's phone? Think about it. You've never seen this device before in your life. It's not yours, it's not your mom's, and it sure as hell shouldn't be at your high school in a forgotten drawer. But somehow, it is. And that's the moment everything starts to shift. That's the moment the past catches up with the present in a way that's chilling, confusing, and completely life-changing. Hey, if you're still watching, that means you're like me, you don't just want to hear a story. You want to feel it. You want answers that dig deep, that say something real about who we are and how our lives are more connected than we think. This isn't some clickbait horror story or cheap thriller twist. This is about identity. About memory. About family. And as I take you through what happened step by step, I want you to imagine how you'd react. Because once this mystery unfolds, you're going to realize, this could have happened to anyone. It could have happened to you. So let's talk about the girl. Her name is MIA. She's 17, just started her senior year at a high school in Northern California. She's not the popular kid, not the outcast, she's somewhere in the middle, the kind of person who gets noticed only when she wants to be. Smart, observant, introverted but with a sarcastic streak that keeps people from messing with her too much. MIA lives with her mom, Lisa, a hard-working nurse who's barely home because of overnight shifts at the hospital. Her dad. That's complicated. She hasn't seen him in years. All she knows is that he left when she was 2 and that is not someone her mom likes to talk about. There are no photos of him around the house. No stories. It's like he vanished, and everyone just agreed not to bring him up again. But MIA never stopped wondering. And it's that curiosity, the one her mom tried so hard to keep buried, that makes her look twice at the phone in the Lost and Found. It's locked, of course. No fingerprint access, no facial recognition, it's too old for that. But here's the thing. When she picks it up, her hand shakes a little. There's something about the weight of the phone that feels too familiar. Almost like a déjà vu. She tells herself it's stupid, but still, she doesn't drop it. She holds on to it. Brings it home. Tells herself she's just being curious, just messing around. But you and I both know that's not the full truth. Because when she finally figures out the passcode, it's a date. A very specific one. A date that keeps showing up in her life in subtle ways. On old paperwork, in scribbled notes, even in her dreams sometimes. October 12th, 2007. She tries it. The phone unlocks. Just like that. And what she sees, it doesn't make sense. The gallery opens up, and the first image is a baby wrapped in a soft blue blanket, sleeping peacefully in a hospital bassinet. Mia's breath catches. Because even though the picture is old, even though the lighting is bad and the image is grainy, she knows it's her. She's seen the same photo in her mom's album at home. Same blanket. Same birthmark. Same sleepy smile. Except her mom never had that photo taken. At least, that's what she always said. Now at this point, you're probably feeling what MIA felt, this weird, spine-tingling tension that's not quite fear but not quite comfort either. Like you're 1 second away from understanding something huge, but it's still out of reach. This is the part where things start to unravel. Because as MIA scrolls through the photos, it's not just 1 or 2 baby pics. It's dozens. Some of her in a crib. Others of her playing with toys she barely remembers. One of her in a stroller at a park she's never seen. And in the background of that one, a man. His face is turned away, but he looks familiar. What if someone had been watching her life? Documenting it, piece by piece. What if this wasn't just about a forgotten phone, but about a forgotten person? Someone who had been in the shadows of her past the entire time, just out of view. And that's where we hit the heart of this story. This is not just about finding a phone. It's about uncovering a history that was buried on purpose. It's about what happens when you dig into secrets that were meant to stay hidden. When you start asking questions that no one is ready to answer. And the more MIA digs, the more dangerous it becomes, not in a horror movie kind of way, but in the deeply emotional, truth is stranger than fiction kind of way. I want you to think about the people in your life right now, your parents, your friends, maybe even someone you haven't spoken to in years. How well do you really know them? How much of your past is yours, and how much has been edited, cleaned up, or erased by the adults around you? Mia's about to find out. And trust me, when she does, nothing will be the same again. Now, if you're still here, that means you're invested. You want to know who took those pictures. Why they were kept. Why the phone ended up in the lost and found, of all places. And what it all means for MIA. And I'm telling you right now, we're going to get there. I'm going to walk you through the full story. No skipped details, no fake-outs. Just raw truth, one piece at a time. And when we get to the end, you'll see why this story hit me so hard. Why I had to tell it. And why you'll never look at a lost phone the same way again. But here's the thing. You have to stay with me. Every minute, every twist, every new clue, it matters. And if you click away now, you'll miss the one reveal that changes everything. I'm not exaggerating. It's not what you think. And when it hits, you'll feel it in your gut. So, if you're ready to dive into this roller coaster, hit that like button so more people find this mystery, and don't forget to subscribe, because part 2 is coming. And you won't want to miss what happens when MIA confronts the one person who holds all the answers, but also has the most to lose. Because in the next part, someone shows up. Someone MIA hasn't seen in 15 years. And when she finally asks him the question that's been burning in her mind, he says only 4 words over the next few days. MIA couldn't stop thinking about that phone. She tried to go about her life as if nothing had happened, slipping it into her desk drawer and telling herself she'd deal with it later, but every time she passed by her room, it felt like the drawer was calling to her. The images on that screen haunted her, not in a scary way, but in a deeply confusing, emotionally raw kind of way. Because the longer she stared at those photos, the more questions surfaced that she didn't know how to answer. Who took these pictures? Why were they hidden away in some beat-up phone? And why now, after all these years, did they suddenly resurface in the most random place imaginable? It didn't feel like a coincidence. It felt like a message. Or maybe even a test. Something or someone wanted her to find that phone. But who? Her days started blending together after that. At school, she drifted through classes, barely able to concentrate. Her best friend, Jordan, noticed something was off almost immediately. Jordan was the kind of person who knew Mia's moods like a second language. She could pick up on a shift in tone, a different look in her eye, the way she tapped her pen more than usual. At lunch, she leaned across the table, her brows knitted, whispering just loud enough for MIA to hear over the cafeteria noise. "Okay, seriously. What's going on with you? You look like you've seen a ghost." MIA hesitated. She didn't know how to explain it without sounding totally unhinged. How do you tell someone you found a phone that has pictures of you as a baby, pictures that no one else should have? So instead, she played it off, saying she was tired, overloaded with schoolwork. But Jordan didn't buy it. She never did. Later that night, MIA found herself scrolling through the photos again. This time, she noticed things she hadn't seen before. In one picture, there was a red baseball cap on a table, just barely in frame, but she remembered it. Her mom used to mention a man who always wore one when she was little. In another image, there was a park bench with graffiti carved into the side, 2 initials, D+L. Her breath caught. Lisa. That was her mom's name. But the D. That part she didn't know. There was never a D in any of the stories she'd heard growing up. If her mom had ever mentioned someone with that initial, MIA couldn't remember it. That realization sent her down a rabbit hole she hadn't planned to enter. She started subtly asking questions at home. Nothing direct, just comments during dinner, little probes to see what her mom might say. "Did we ever go to the park near Westfield when I was little?" she asked one night while pushing broccoli around her plate. Lisa didn't look up from her phone. "I don't think so," she said casually, without a second thought. "Too far of a drive." "Why?" MIA shrugged. "Just thought I recognized it from somewhere." Her mom barely reacted. But MIA noticed something in her tone, a pause just long enough to register as a crack in the surface. She knew her mom well enough to sense when she was dodging something, and this was definitely a dodge. The tension started building like pressure behind a closed door. MIA couldn't tell if she was chasing a real mystery or just spiraling down a hole of paranoia. But then something else happened, something that made her blood go cold. She got a message. Not a text. Not a DM. But an old-school voicemail, left from a blocked number. The voice on the other end was muffled, almost like it was being recorded through fabric. But the message was clear. "You weren't supposed to find that. Stop digging." Then silence. That was it. No name. No details. Just a warning. MIA played it over and over, trying to make out any clue in the voice, anything she could use. But it was too distorted, like whoever sent it knew exactly how to hide their tracks. That's when she knew this wasn't in her head. Someone else was involved. Someone who didn't want her to know the truth. And now, every person around her felt like a potential suspect. There was Mr. Reynolds, the school custodian, who'd been working at the high school for over 15 years. He was the one who managed the lost and found. He always seemed kind of quiet, always in the background, never really talking unless someone spoke to him first. MA remembered how he gave her a strange look when she walked out of the office that day, the phone clutched in her hand. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe it wasn't. Then there was Jordan. As much as MIA trusted her best friend, she couldn't help but wonder what if someone close to her was hiding something. Jordan had mentioned once, offhandedly, that her older brother used to go to the same school. Maybe he left something behind. Maybe this phone wasn't random. Maybe it had a connection to Jordan's family, and she just didn't know it yet. Or did she? Even Mia's neighbor, Mrs. Kim, started to feel like a piece in the puzzle. She'd lived next door since MIA was born. Always overly friendly, always showing up with baked goods and long-winded stories. That night, long after MIA had shut off the lights and curled up beneath her blankets, pretending to sleep, her phone buzzed quietly under the pillow. She thought it might be another voicemail, another anonymous warning, but when she checked, it was a text from Jordan. It simply read, "Call me. Now." There was no emoji, no punctuation, none of Jordan's usual personality in it. Just those 2 words, urgent and stark. MIA hesitated for a beat, her thumb hovering over the screen before tapping the call icon. The line picked up almost instantly, and Jordan's voice came through, shaking. "Someone left something in my locker," she said, barely above a whisper. "I don't know how they got in. It was just sitting there, no note, nothing. Just a picture. Of you. From when you were a baby. In a stroller. You're smiling, and someone's pushing you, but their face is cut off." MIA sat up, her heart hammering in her chest, the room spinning in slow motion. "It was the same park," Jordan continued, "the one you asked me about last week. The one you said looked familiar." MIA couldn't breathe. This wasn't just about her anymore. Someone else was being pulled in. Someone was making moves, deliberately dropping breadcrumbs in places they shouldn't have access to. Her mind was spinning with questions. Who put that picture there? How did they know about Jordan? Why involve her at all? It was beginning to feel like a game, but with no rules and no end in sight, just a growing sense of unease and the chilling realization that someone was always one step ahead. Or how far they were willing to go to keep the truth buried. The next few days passed in a blur that didn't feel like living so much as surviving. MIA stopped sleeping altogether, her mind running on the raw energy of fear and confusion, every hour adding new layers to the mystery until it no longer felt like a question she could answer but a trap she had somehow fallen into. Her house no longer felt like home, it felt like a place under surveillance, like every wall might have ears and every light switch might be hiding something. She moved her laptop into her closet, piled blankets over the crack under the door, and stayed there for hours at a time, cataloging every lead, every face that had reappeared in her memories, and every piece of evidence that hadn't yet vanished. But even her own thoughts were starting to betray her. Because she kept coming back to the same, impossible conclusion. Her mother hadn't just lied, she had built her entire life on the lie. And now MIA was living inside it, trying to tear it down without knowing what might fall on her if she did. She couldn't take it anymore. She had to confront her. There was no gentle way left, no more room for second-guessing or waiting for the right moment. So that evening, as her mom was rinsing dishes at the sink, MIA slammed the photo album onto the kitchen table again, only this time, she didn't ask questions. She made accusations. "You told me he left," she said, her voice shaking with more rage than fear now. "You told me he walked out. That you raised me alone. But that wasn't the truth, was it? You've been lying to me since before I could talk. And I think I know why." Lisa didn't flinch. She didn't even turn around. She just kept scrubbing a plate in slow, measured circles, her back to her daughter like it was just another ordinary evening. Then she set the plate down, dried her hands with robotic calm, and finally turned, her face unreadable. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said, but there was something in her tone, an edge of fear, not anger. And that was when MIA pushed harder. "I think he didn't leave at all. I think you ran. I think you were involved in something that got out of control, and you hid me because you thought he, or someone else, was going to come looking. I found the picture in Jordan's locker. I found the note in the attic. And I found him. The man in the red hat. The one you said didn't exist." That was the first time her mother's expression broke. She didn't deny it. She didn't defend herself. Her legs gave out slightly, and she leaned against the counter like her body could no longer carry the weight of what MIA had just said out loud. Then she whispered something MIA never expected to hear. "It wasn't supposed to reach you." MIA stared, heart pounding so loud she could barely hear. "What wasn't?" Lisa closed her eyes. "We made a deal. Years ago. To protect you. Everyone involved agreed we would vanish, bury everything, and pretend it never happened. But you started digging, and now they think I told you something. And if they think I talked, they'll come back. Not just for me. For you too." Her voice cracked on the last word, and MIA saw something behind her mother's eyes she hadn't seen before, terror. Pure, human fear. But MIA had reached her breaking point. "Then tell me what it is. Tell me what happened, or I swear I'll go to the police with everything I have. You think you're protecting me, but all you're doing is making me a target without giving me any way to fight back." Lisa hesitated. It was the kind of hesitation that lasts only a second but says everything. It told MIA that the truth wasn't just difficult, it was dangerous, and speaking it out loud might unleash something neither of them could control. Then Lisa gave her a choice. "You can walk away from this now," she said. "Let me handle it. Burn the pictures, erase everything you've saved, and we can disappear again. I know how to do it. New names, new city, clean start. We can leave tonight, MIA. But if you stay, if you keep going down this road, there's no more protection. You'll be in it. Just like I was. And once you're in, you don't get out." Mia's breath caught. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand more. But the truth was, this was the first moment her mother had told her anything real. And it wasn't what she expected. It wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about legacy. Inheritance. Some unseen contract that had been written over her life before she was even born. And now, she had to choose whether to inherit it or reject it completely. But the moment didn't wait for her to decide. Because just then, her phone buzzed. A single text. No name. No number. Just a photo. It was of Jordan. In a place that looked like a basement. Duct tape across her mouth. Eyes wide, pleading. And beneath it, a message. Time's up. Choose now. Her life or your truth. Mia's hands trembled as she showed it to her mother. Lisa's face went white. They know you're close. They must have tracked your phone. We need to move now. But Mia stood frozen. The ultimatum was real. Walk away and save her best friend, or keep chasing the answers she'd spent her entire life never knowing, risking Jordan's life in the process. There was no clear right choice. No good one. Only sacrifice. And for the first time, Mia truly understood what it meant to be part of something bigger than a personal mystery. This wasn't about uncovering the past anymore. The house was already surrounded before they made it out the back door. Mia had barely grabbed her backpack and the small black folder where she'd stored every piece of physical evidence she could find when her mom yanked open the sliding glass door and froze mid-step. There were 2 black SUVs parked halfway down the alley, headlights off, no engine noise, no movement, just there, waiting. Like they'd been there for hours. Mia's phone buzzed again, but she didn't dare check it. Lisa pulled her back inside, her breath tight and shallow, muttering something Mia couldn't catch as she locked the door again and bolted it. The air had changed. No more whispers. No more warnings. Whoever was behind this was done playing games. Her mom moved like someone who had rehearsed this escape 100 times. She opened a panel Mia never knew existed beneath the staircase, revealing a dusty crawlspace lined with old military-style duffel bags and maps taped to the inner walls. There was a burner phone, a flashlight, even packets of cash wrapped in rubber bands. We were supposed to have more time, Lisa said, her voice breaking for the first time. They moved faster than I thought. Mia didn't ask who they were, not because she didn't want to know, but because she was afraid she already did. Whoever had taken Jordan wasn't just trying to scare her anymore. They were sending a message: you were never just a random target. You were born into this. But the shock hadn't even settled before it hit harder. The betrayal that changed everything. As they raced out the basement door and slipped into the neighbor's yard, someone stepped out from behind the fence. A flashlight clicked on. And there, standing calm and composed, was Officer Grant, the school resource officer. The man who had always seemed harmless, quiet, even friendly. He had spoken at the school safety assemblies. He gave out stickers to the freshmen. He was the guy who had walked Mia to her car after late rehearsals when it was dark. And now he was pointing a gun at her mother and calmly saying, "It's over, Lisa. Don't make this harder than it already is." Lisa didn't flinch. You were never supposed to be the one on the inside. Grant shrugged. Plans change. Orders get revised. Mia stood frozen between them. You know him? Lisa's voice cracked again. He was one of the good ones. A long time ago. Grant's face didn't even twitch. She's your daughter, Lisa. We get that. That's why we're giving you a chance to do the right thing. Bring her in. We'll make sure she's protected. Protected? Mia snapped, the fury breaking through. You kidnapped my friend. That girl is leverage, he said. Nothing more. We had to be sure you'd cooperate. You started digging into something that should have stayed buried. Mia stepped back, her mind spinning. What is it? What are you all hiding? Grant looked at Lisa, then back to Mia. It's not about one person. It never was. Your mother was part of something that went very wrong a long time ago. A classified program. A leak. People died, and others were paid to disappear. Your birth was never supposed to be documented. The only reason you're still breathing is because Lisa made a deal to stay quiet, to stay gone. But when you started chasing ghosts, you threatened the entire chain. Mia's heart pounded so hard it felt like it might stop. A government cover-up? A Black Ops program? What kind of life had her mother lived before she was even born? She looked at Lisa, waiting, needing her to deny it, to say Grant was lying. But Lisa said nothing. Her silence screamed the truth. They ran. They didn't have a plan anymore, just raw instinct, adrenaline, and the desperate need to escape. Lisa led her through backyards, down side streets, through ditches behind shopping centers, ducking under fences, always moving, always looking over their shoulders. The entire time, MIA couldn't stop shaking. The conspiracy wasn't some vague theory now. It wasn't just about secret photos and cryptic warnings. It was real. Organized. Deep. A network of people planted in everyday roles, cops, teachers, neighbors, people paid to watch her, control the narrative, and eliminate anything that threatened to expose it. The most terrifying part was how long it had gone unnoticed. Everything MIA thought she knew about her life had been curated, monitored, controlled. Even the people she thought were on her side. Especially them. And then, as they reached the edge of the old train yard, breathless and caked in dirt, Lisa pulled out the burner phone. She dialed a number without hesitation and waited. It rang twice, then someone picked up on the other end. She didn't say hello. She just spoke into the darkness. She knows everything now. You need to activate the failsafe. Mia's stomach dropped. Failsafe? What failsafe? But Lisa didn't answer. She hung up, shoved the phone in her pocket, and turned to MIA with tears in her eyes. This is going to get worse before it gets better. But there are people, real people, still out there. People who broke away from the system. Who want to end it. They've been waiting for someone to light the match. And I think that's you. MIA couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. She had thought this was just about finding out where she came from. But now it was about who she was meant to become. And whether or not she was strong enough to take down something that had existed longer than she'd been alive. But first, she had to get Jordan back. And she had to do it before it was too late. The storm hit just after midnight, as if nature itself had conspired to heighten the tension. Thunder cracked like gunfire, and rain lashed against the windshield of the stolen car as MIA and her mother approached the industrial complex on the outskirts of town. It had once been a military storage site, long since decommissioned, abandoned in public records, and fenced off with rusting chain link and faded government warnings. But Lisa knew better. She had been here before, years ago, under a different name, on orders from people who no longer existed in any official capacity. And now, she was bringing her daughter back to the same place she had tried so hard to keep her from. They parked 2 blocks out, hidden under the collapsed canopy of a long-dead gas station. Mia's heart was pounding so hard it felt like her entire body pulsed with it, her fingers curled around the grip of the flashlight in her lap like it was a weapon. This wasn't a rescue mission anymore, it was an exorcism. She wasn't just looking for Jordan. She was looking for answers, and she knew this was the last chance she'd ever get to pull them from the people who had taken everything from her. Her mother kept repeating one phrase under her breath like a prayer or a warning: they'll lie. They'll twist the truth. Trust your gut, not their story. Inside the compound, the silence was absolute. The storm outside dulled to a distant roar behind thick concrete walls and rows of storage units that stretched like a graveyard for secrets. Lisa moved with practiced urgency, bypassing the surveillance cameras she knew wouldn't be monitored in the usual way, heading toward the far end of the complex where a heavy metal door waited, reinforced and coded. But what neither of them expected, what threw everything into chaos, was that the door was already open. Inside, standing in the middle of a dimly lit room with banks of silent monitors and shelves lined with manila folders and hard drives, was Jordan. Alive. Unharmed. Staring at them with wide eyes, but no restraints. No captors. She wasn't locked up. She was waiting. MIA rushed forward, crying out, arms half extended before she stopped herself. Something was wrong. Jordan didn't move. Didn't smile. And then, from the shadows behind her, another figure stepped out. The man in the red hat. Older now. Paler. His face thinner than the photo suggested. But unmistakable. Lisa's breath caught, and MIA saw it happen, saw the history crash into her mother's face like a wave of ice water. This wasn't just a man. This was the ghost who had haunted her every move, the reason for the fake identities, the years of running, the silence. And now he was standing in front of them, flesh and blood, hands relaxed at his sides as if they were guests in his home. "I didn't want it to go this way," he said calmly, his voice deep and measured. But she wouldn't stop digging. "Who are you?" Mia demanded, her voice sharp with rage. "Why were you in those pictures? Why did you take Jordan?" He didn't answer her directly. He looked at Lisa. "You should have told her the truth a long time ago. She was always going to find out." Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. "You're not her father." "No," he replied, "but I am the reason she exists." Mia staggered back, trying to make sense of the words. Lisa covered her mouth, eyes filled with tears, not from fear this time, but from shame. The truth came out in pieces, like a dam breaking. This man, this nameless operator, had led a classified project 2 decades ago. Genetic experimentation. Behavioral manipulation. A program designed to engineer children born with specific cognitive profiles for intelligence gathering, psychological warfare, digital infiltration. Mia had been born inside the program, the result of pairing a select group of subjects based on manipulated DNA algorithms. Lisa hadn't fallen in love. She had been assigned. Her pregnancy had been monitored, analyzed, and finally, when she realized what her daughter would be used for, she ran. Mia was never meant to be raised by a mother. She was supposed to be property. Everything they'd done since, every message, every warning, every threat, was about recovering what they saw as theirs. Jordan stepped forward now, her expression torn between guilt and heartbreak. "I didn't know until last week," she said softly. "He told me everything. That I was part of it too. My parents adopted me, but I was another one of the experiment's kids. They split us all up when the program collapsed. We were never supposed to reconnect." Mia couldn't breathe. Her entire life had been constructed like a lab rat's maze. Every friendship, every memory, every person who had coincidentally crossed her path. It was all part of the design. The man in the red hat took a step forward. "You have a choice, Mia. Come with us. Learn who you really are. Embrace what you were born to be. Or destroy it all, burn the data, sever the link, and live the rest of your life wondering what you could have been." Mia turned to her mother, trembling. "What happens if I destroy it?" Lisa spoke clearly now, the strength back in her voice. "They'll hunt others. There are more of you out there. You destroy it, you give them a chance to be free. You stay, and it starts again. Just with new names, new cities, new kids." And then Mia remembered the folder she had carried the whole way, the one her mother had told her never to open until the last moment. With her fingers shaking, she pulled it out and flipped it open. Inside was a simple flash drive. And a note in her mother's handwriting. "This is the key. Their archive. Their leverage. Use it only when you're ready to burn it all down." She looked up. And without saying a word, Mia pulled the lighter from her pocket, the one Jordan had given her the day before she disappeared. She struck the flame and held it to the corner of the folder. Everything inside began to curl and blacken. The man's expression didn't change. But Mia saw it. The fear. The end of control. As the flames grew, a deafening alarm sounded from deep inside the complex. Backup generators kicked on, lights flickered red, and distant voices shouted commands in confusion. It was chaos. But Mia stood firm, watching everything burn, while the truth she was never supposed to know turned to ash. She turned to Jordan, grabbed her hand, and ran. Behind them, the complex erupted in sirens and smoke, files lost, hard drives scorched, the carefully crafted illusion of control undone in a matter of minutes. Lisa followed close, blood on her knuckles and fury in her eyes. And just when Mia thought the nightmare might finally be over, her phone buzzed one last time. No number. No name. Just a message. "You only found one facility." And then coordinates. To somewhere in Arizona. It was nearly dawn by the time the three of them, Mia, Lisa, and Jordan, reached the edge of the coastline, the sky smeared with streaks of grey and lavender like the world itself was finally exhaling after everything it had been holding back. They had driven all night in silence, the weight of what they'd done and what they now knew sitting heavy in the air like fog that wouldn't lift. The facility had burned. Not completely, but enough. Enough to destroy the digital cores, the archived files, the hidden hard drives that had traced Mia's life back to something colder than a birth certificate. And even though they knew others still existed, other compounds, other children, other watchers, the one that had followed MIA like a shadow since before she could speak was gone. There was a quiet peace in that, even if it wasn't complete. Even if it wouldn't last. Lisa had barely said a word since they'd left the perimeter. She stared out the window, her profile caught in the morning light, and for the first time, MIA saw her not just as a mother, or as someone who had run from a mistake, but as a woman who had made an impossible choice, who had sacrificed comfort, stability, and identity to give her daughter a chance at a real life, even if that life was stitched together with lies. There was a kind of strength in that MIA hadn't understood until now. It wasn't just about survival. It was about love, the kind that doesn't always come with soft words and open arms, but with doors slammed in fear and secrets buried out of necessity. And in that stillness, MIA forgave her. Not out loud. Not yet. But in the space between them, something began to heal. Jordan sat in the back, arms wrapped around her knees, eyes red but no longer crying. She had been used too, manipulated, placed, and studied, but through it all, she'd stayed. She'd come back. She had chosen her own side. And that mattered more than any file could ever erase. The two girls exchanged a glance, quiet and loaded with everything they didn't have the words for. Gratitude. Guilt. Sisterhood. Whatever they were now, it was no longer simple. But it was real. They reached the beach just as the tide began to roll in, and for a long time, they stood in the sand without saying anything. Just watching the water move. That was when MIA finally opened her phone, the cracked screen reflecting the growing light. The coordinates were still there. Arizona. Another facility. Another buried truth. She knew she could trace it, follow it, unravel it like she had this one. And part of her wanted to, needed to. But another part, a quieter part, knew she had to stop chasing ghosts for just a moment and live in what was left of the real world. She scrolled through her photos. Not the encrypted ones, not the digital copies of classified documents, but the ones from before. A blurry shot of her and Jordan at the arcade. Her mom smiling at the camera during a rainy day breakfast. An old picture of her younger self, face smudged with cake, grinning without knowing anything about the wait that was waiting for her. MIA closed the phone. There were answers out there still. More facilities. More people. More secrets. But there were also choices to be made. Real choices, not ones coded into her DNA or planned in some forgotten algorithm. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest rebellion against the system that had tried to design her life was to live it on her own terms. To wake up tomorrow, not as a mystery, or a project, or a threat, but as a person. Flawed, fractured, and finally free. The wind picked up, brushing strands of hair across her face as the tide kissed her feet and pulled back again. Lisa touched her shoulder lightly. You don't have to keep running, MIA. You already outran them. MIA nodded, but her eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. Behind them, the world still held its secrets. But in front of them, the sun was rising. And for the first time, it felt like it belonged to her. As they turned back toward the car, their footprints washed away behind them, Mia's phone vibrated again. A new message. No name. No number. Just one line. She's not the only one who burned the archive. And beneath it, a photo of a girl who looked just like MIA. But she wasn't. Different hair. Different city. Same eyes. MIA stared at it, her heart steady now, not from fear but from purpose. The story wasn't over.